Sehr geehrte Aktionäre und Aktionärsvertreter,
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Heinz Gerd Venter. As Chairman of the Supervisory Board, I herewith open this year's AGM of Salzgitter AG, and in accordance with the Article of Association, will chair the meeting. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you, also on behalf of the Management Board and the Supervisory Board. I'm particularly pleased that I can do this again personally. The notarial minutes of today's meeting are being kept by Notary Public Dr. Gulick, who I also cordially welcome. I would also like in particular to welcome the students of the Gifhorn Vocational Training School who we have invited as guests. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to point out that it is not permitted to take photos or make audio and video recordings during this AGM. The cameras that you can see here are only used to transmit the pictures on the screens in the hall and on the monitors in the foyer, and until the end of the CEO's report. There's also a live stream that can be accessed on internet via our website. Individual shareholders will not be filmed. I would like to allow the press to make film, sound and image recordings of what is happening on the stage. I would ask them not to take individual shots of shareholders without their consent, so that the right of personality is preserved. In addition, I would like to ask you to switch off or mute your mobile phones here in the hall. Furthermore, the operator of the Congress Park here has pointed out that legal requirements is that smoking is absolutely forbidden in the entire hall. Please observe that. Anyone who wishes to smoke may do so in front of the building, where they should use the ashtrays provided. Please note that you will then leave the presence area and will have to have you will be deleted from the presence list when you leave the exit gate. When you re-enter the presence area, you will be registered again via your admission ticket, and then you will be again registered as being present. The presence area is this main hall and the foyers up to the entrance and exit gates, including the sanitary areas. In the foyers and the sanitary areas, the activities of the general meeting will be broadcast on monitors and loudspeakers. Shareholders who are in the presence area are taking part in the meeting. However, any requests to speak and voting can only be made here in the main hall. And before we move on to the agenda, I would like to point out that the following changes have taken place since the last Supervisory Board meeting in June the 2nd of 22. Mr. Ronald Flach has resigned from his mandate with effect from December 31, 2022. He is replaced by Ms. Karin Hardikoff, and that has been affected by the decision of the Braunschweig District Court, effective from January the 1st. Mr. Reinhold Hilbers has also resigned his post from effective end of 31 December 2022. Mr. Gerald Hare has taken his place with effect from January the 3rd. Furthermore, Mr. Norbert Keller stepped down as employee representative with effect from the 31st of January 2023, and Mr. Marco Gasser has taken his place by order of the Braunschweig District Court with effect from February 21, 2023. The Supervisory Board would like to thank all of those departing members for their many years of commitment to our company. I also note that all members of the Supervisory Board and the Management Board are present here today. Today's AGM was convened by publication in the Federal Gazette on April the 13th, 2023, with notification of the complete agenda and the proposed resolutions of the Supervisory Board and, as applicable, the Management Board, as contained in agenda items 2 to 8. I note that the annual general meeting was convened in the correct form and on time. In addition to the announcement in the Federal Gazette, the convening of the AGM has also been communicated to intermediaries, shareholders and associations and other persons in accordance with the statutory provisions. The convening of the AGM was forwarded to the media on April the 13th, 2023, and it may be assumed that information has been disseminated throughout the EU. I note that the following documents have been submitted in accordance with the statutory provisions since the convening of the AGM and can be accessed on the company's website, www.salzgitter-ag.com general meeting. The convening of today's AGM, including the agenda with the management's proposed resolutions, the approval of the annual financial statements of Salzgitter Group, and the approved consolidated financial statements as of the 31st December 2022, the combined management report of Salzgitter AG and for the group for financial year 2022, the report of the Supervisory Board, and the Management Board proposals for the appropriation of retained earnings. The same applies to the Executive Board's explanatory report in accordance with the German Commercial Code. The aforementioned documents are also available today here at the AGM at the Request to Speak table. The list of participants of shareholders who have appeared and their representatives is currently being prepared. I will announce the results of that before the first vote. You may view the list after completion at the request table. Any changes to attendance are continuously electronically recorded, documented, and added to the list of participants. I would ask those shareholders and shareholder representatives who wish to leave the AGM early without continuing to exercise their voting rights to present their admission ticket at the exit gate so that the list of participants can be corrected accordingly. This also applies during the entire meeting, and that means also after the vote, until that point at which expressly close the meeting. Shareholders only wish to leave the meeting temporarily must register again when they return using their admission ticket. You also have the option of nominating another general meeting participant or the company proxy with exercising your voting rights. In the event that you wish to authorize another participant, you should use the section marked Information on the authorized person on the back of your ticket, sign your admission ticket on the back, and then go to the exit gate together with that person and hand the ticket in to the authorized person. If you wish to authorize the proxies nominated by the company, please use the section Authorization of Proxies nominated by the company. That's on the back of your ticket. That should then be handed in and signed at the exit gate. You may also use tablets to issue powers of attorney and instructions to proxies of the company at the entrance and exit gates. I would like to point out that the proxies, one of whom is here on my left in the main hall and the other in the entrance area on the ground floor, do not accept any requests to speak or to ask any questions or make motions. Before we start with the agenda, just an organizational note. In our common interest of having a speedy AGM today, all items on the agenda are to be discussed in a general debate following the report of the Executive Board. In this general debate, all shareholders and representatives who wish to speak can then have their say on all items on the agenda and ask their questions on all items on the agenda. All votes on the agenda will then take place following the debate. With regard to the implementation of these votes, I would like to point out that it's only possible to vote in the main hall, not in the foyer and not in any adjoining rooms. Everyone who wants to cast their vote must go to the main hall when I ask people to come for their vote. The presence determination system will use a computer-aided system for voting. Please note that if you have several admission tickets, you must present each of these for accreditation at the ground floor for registration. Only registered tickets can be used to vote. If you would like to speak about items on the agenda, please contact the request desk here at the front on my left, and then a form will be filled in with your name. Please present your admission ticket. So that you can prepare yourself, I will then call up the current and the following speaker during the course of the meeting. In the interest of all shareholders, I would ask you to keep your comments short and concise and refer only to the questions here on the agenda. There is no limit on your speaking length, but I would ask you to be considerate and stick to only speaking for 10 to 15 minutes. I reserve the right to change any individual procedures if necessary. I would also point out now that after the report of the board and the statements of the shareholders, we will have a break of approximately 30 minutes. You can use that for your lunch, which will be made available buffet style outside this main hall. After that, the Board of Management and Supervisory Board will respond to your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have already been to one of our AGMs, you will know that it is tradition that we commemorate any persons of the company who have died since the last AGM. We wish to do that here again today. All those people did their very best for their company. This year, I would also not only like to commemorate those of our companies who have died, but also people who have died in connection with Russia's war against the Ukraine. We are aware that this war represents a human tragedy for many of our fellow human beings. May I ask those present here to pause now for a moment of silence in respect. Thank you for your empathy. We will now move on to the agenda, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to introduce the 8 items on the agenda, and I'm sure they'll be available on the screen. First, submission of approved annual accounts, Salzgitter AG, and the approved consolidated financial statements as of December 31st, 2022, with the combined management report and the report of the Supervisory Board. Second, resolution on the appropriation of the balance sheet profit. Third, resolution on the discharge of the members of the Management Board. Fourth, resolution on the discharge of the members of the Supervisory Board. Fifth, appointment of the auditor for financial year 2023. Sixth, resolution on the approval of the remuneration report. Seventh, resolution on the new election of the Supervisory Board. 8, resolution on the amendment of Article 10 of the Articles of Association to authorize the Management Board to provide for holding a virtual general meeting, if so desired. In the invitation, you can see the proposed resolutions, and also the complete wording is available on the invitation and for inspection at the request to speak table. Before we have the report of the Executive Board, I would like to report briefly on the work of the Supervisory Board in 2022. The Board had 5 meetings in the past financial year. We discussed in detail, together with the Management Board, the course of business and the situation of the company, including the effects of Russia's war of aggression against the Ukraine, especially on the energy, raw materials and steel prices, disrupted supply chain, and things which have changed our customer order behavior. Between the meetings, the Board also was continuously informed about developments in the company. We looked into deviations from the plan presented at the beginning of the year. In 2022, the work of the Board focused mainly on the following 2 topics. The key topic of the work of the Board was looking at the issue of decarbonization of steel production. In steel production, as you know, iron ore has always been used to smelt the iron ore using coal. This results in massive amounts of carbon emissions. In order to emit carbon dioxide in the EU, quantity-based emission certificates are required, and these have to be purchased to some extent. This is not only very expensive, but we also wish to contribute as best we can to achieving the goal of significantly reducing national and global CO2 emissions. For this, it will be necessary to use completely new processes and technologies in steel production. This also requires major investments. That is why the Board dealt exclusively with this complex topic in July and in March in 2 extraordinary meetings in order to become more familiar with the facets of this transformation process and to release the investment funds required for the program. In addition, the Board focused on the Group's new strategic orientation. Among other things, In March of last year, the board approved a corporate organization that takes the company's new strategy into account. To find out more about the activities of the board, please look at the written report of the board starting page 7 in the annual report. Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the management board report, I would like to give you some explanations for the resolutions as proposed. Point 2 on the agenda, it is proposed to distribute a dividend of €1 per dividend entitled share for financial year 2022. The board is of the opinion that this proposal represents an appropriate balance between the legitimate dividend interests of the shareholders and the company's needs for accumulating money. Item 5 on the agenda, the board proposes that Ernst & Young GmbH is reappointed as auditor for financial year 2023. This company has been working for us since 2020. The committee of the Supervisory Board monitoring the auditing activity was satisfied with the quality of the audit, so that we can, with a clear conscience, propose that you re-elect this company as the auditor. Item 6 on the agenda is a proposal to approve the report on the remuneration of the members of the Management Board and the Supervisory Board as prepared for 2022. Item 7 is the new election of the Supervisory Board. The term of office of the current board ends at the end of today's AGM. The board must therefore be re-elected. In accordance with the statutory provisions and our articles of association, it is made up of 10 representatives of the shareholders, 10 employee representatives, and 1 other member. The 10 representatives of the shareholders and the other members are to be elected at this AGM. Of the 10 shareholder representatives, at least 3 must be women and at least 3 men. The election proposals take these percentages into account. The board proposes the election of the following persons as shareholder representatives: Ulrike Brosi, Dr. Bernd Dorven, Karin Hardekopf, Gerald Herer, Professor Dr. Susanne Knorrer, Heinz Kreutzer, Klaus Papenburg, Professor Dr. Joachim Schindler, myself, Heinz, Gerhard Venter, and Dr. Susanne Sepreva-Hahner-Bichler. These proposals take into account recommendations of the German Corporate Governance Code and also the goals of the Supervisory Board, and strive to provide a full competence profile as drawn up by the Supervisory Board for the board. They also meet with what the board considers to be an appropriate number of independent Supervisory Board members and correspond to the diversity concept that the Supervisory Board follows. As far as the last member is concerned, in accordance with the statutory provisions, we propose that Frank Klingebeil is voted in. The general meeting is not authorized to make counter-proposals to this election proposal. You can find the CVs and other information about each of the candidates named in the invitation to today's meeting. 2 of them were only appointed as members of the board by the local court a few months ago and therefore are not yet known to the AGM. Another candidate is new. I would therefore ask these 3 to briefly introduce themselves. First of all, please Ms. Hardekopf to come to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Karin Hardekopf. I am 58 years old. I have 3 children. I am member of the Papenburg AG Executive Board. It is a family company. I joined them after studying. I've been there for over 30 years, responsible for finance, taxes, and bookkeeping in the company. I look forward to my tasks here in the Supervisory Board. Thank you for your faith in me. Mr. Herer, could you come forward and introduce yourself? Dear shareholders, representatives, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gerhard Heere. I'm 44 years old, married, have 2 small children. I have been financial minister of the state of North Saxony since November. I have studied various things, including IT, and I've also been a member of the Bremen Finance Administration, and also been a member of the Niedersachsen government, and also of the various committees at the regional government, and I'm also a member of the various banking groups. And I look forward very much to my tasks here and working here to work for the benefit of the Salzgitter AG. Thank you very much. And Mrs. Sapreva? I don't think you can take that shortcut, can you? It's a long walk. Ladies and gentlemen, shareholders, my name is Susanna Sapreva. I am 50 years old. I'm married. I have 1 son. I am an electrical engineer. I studied business studies, and I spent all of my working life in the energy sector. I am CEO of the Inner City AG in Hanover, and as of next year, I am also in the management board of the Verbund AG. I am very much involved in the energy economy and also in the hydrogen committee of the federal government. I look forward very much to working here on the supervisory board of the Salzgitter AG, and I'd like to thank you in advance for your trust and faith. Thank you. Thank you very much, all 3. And now, Item 8 on the agenda is proposed to amend the company's Articles of Association to authorize the Management Board to hold the AGM as a virtual meeting format even after the government regulations expire after the pandemic. This authorization is limited to a period of 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to ask Mr. Groebler, CEO of Salzgitter AG, to present his comments on the management and group management report for 2022 and to give the AGM a report on current business.
Dear shareholders, friends of Salzgitter AG, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me. I'm delighted to welcome you personally to this year's AGM. Last year was digital, and I told you back then, if possible, we do it like this, and great that we can all meet in person here. I'd like to show you how we have developed over the past 12 months, how our strategy has advanced. Let me emphasize at this point that we got through the year very well. The key data are very nice, and also within the development of the company we were doing fine. The key data for 2022 show that we have 1.6 billion euros EBITDA and 1.2 billion euros pre-tax profit. That's the second best operating result in the company history in a year, which of course had quite a few challenges. So be happy with us. Join me in celebrating a strong year for your Salzgitter AG. And please do include those colleagues whom we have already given our thanks to, because without our staff, that would not have been possible. It's our employees who built the company. We have achieved a lot since the last annual general meeting. One central element of the group strategy is, of course, our new investment program. We've got the go ahead for the implementation of the hot dip galvanizing plant, and we had almost 1 billion euros in terms of funding, which is a great step in getting forward in our renewal. And we have already started with our Salzgitter investment at first in a smaller scale, and now we can cover it all, the windmills to electrolysis, all the way to the galvanizing plant. So we're in Peine, we have then the entire process chain at the place, and we can not only prove that the system works, but we can show the first steps, showing that the big plant, which will open in 26, is going to work. And we have already made advances in the strategy of our product range. Our galvanization plant 3 has been commissioned, and the products are being received by our clients. Our clients like it, they want it. And not only on that side did we work on, also culturally we moved forward. We talked about our safety days, which we started at the Flachstadt, and the feedback from our employees has been great. So not only did we do it again this year, but we also advanced it for everybody. On 14 days, we had more than 3,000 people who joined us in our safety days, and at different stations, we looked at the individual aspects of safety, and they for themselves were able to see new aspects of this. And that is part of their daily work life now. And this is only a flashlight on what we have done in the past year. I have a few other pictures and I have a big film for you here. I think these were great pictures that underline the successful start of our strategy. And you know, it shows that our strategy was exactly right the way we kicked off. You know this picture from last year. I brought it along to show you three of the important foundations of it. It is the foundation of what we have done and what we were planning on doing in the future: circularity, pioneering, and partnering. So we put it into the service of circularity because our material is steel, but also other materials. We want to keep them in the process as long as possible, make use of them as long as it is really possible. And this is something that guides our acting and also the direction of the company. And then the next point is pioneering. We want to be pioneers. We want to take the role of a pioneer. And we're out of the shadow of big market competitors, and we're convinced of our own way. This is a little bit unusual. No other steel company in Europe or Germany has received 1 billion euros in funding from the government in our Salzgitter enterprise. So you see, we are pioneers, and we're happy in this role because this shows us that we can also develop future markets. And the last pillar would be partnering. You can do this thing alone, yes, but it's hard and it's cumbersome. Now, if you have partners as suppliers, as clients, you are more robust and you're more resilient in the future. And the feedback that we have been getting so far and the way that we have decided to support each other has been quite positive. Now, this kind of strategy can be described. I can tell you about it, but it's important that it's transparent and measurable. You as shareholders should know how far are we with the implementation of it. That's why we broke it down into a strategic scorecard. So we show the different directions that we have and what kind of goals we have, what the objectives are. And we have the main aim in 2030 and also in 2025. We have an interim milestone, and that way you can see how far we have advanced. And we also have, as you can see here on the board, one which is called progress, and then you see to what individual area we have already attributed certain successes. And I'll show you how far we have come in the individual fields. Let's start off with the circular economy. Well, the aim to keep recyclable materials such as steel in the material cycle for as long as possible, to use energy as comprehensively as possible and not as waste heat, for example, or just have gone into the atmosphere. And especially when you see that prices have gone up in energy, this is of course a very important point. And of course, Salzgitter here is a core building block. But coming back to circular economy, we have to think of scrap. The scrap strategy means that we need more scrap and we need higher quality of scrap. So we have therefore defined a scrap strategy, and when we say partnering for transformation with clients that use our material and who themselves produce scrap, we made deals so that we can then purchase back the scrap, especially in the automotive sector. That is a major group of clients. But also on the side of the portfolio, we bought another company to be accessing scrap directly where it is being produced. Now, the next point is green energy. The supply of green energy will become crucial in order to build up our Scope 3 emission energy strategy unit in the holding company, due to the strategic importance of energy procurement at the turn of the year. And not only strategically, in addition, we're also very strong in the market, and We have already signed the first power purchase agreements, so-called green energy contracts that make it possible for us that we get 1/4 of our electricity requirements covered by green sources. And of course, we are trying to make sure that we can expand that. But it's not only that on the strategic side that we worked, but we also tried, and I think we were quite successful in that, to make sure that our staff is part of the game. We wanted to have them on board, so we therefore had a so-called Decarb Award. We asked our employees to think of ideas, big ideas, small ideas, of how in the company we can reduce our CO2 footprint. And what are your ideas? In total, we had 65 submissions with a cumulative saving potential of almost 700,000 tons of CO2 in this corporate initiative. And I think this is a great example for our level of competency, how we have been including our staff in all of this.
Ideas for steel production in Salzgitter. KS in Brazil is also very active. We've had great prizes here. It's a great atmosphere here. We created this award last year, and avoiding CO2 production, all staff members are involved, and here they are in a competition. I think there's a great benefit here in this award, also because the ideas are regenerated and they stop CO2 and they help reduce the emissions. It's not the big items, it's the detail. It's looking at the actual reality, and that is has been discussed here, and in all areas we have achieved progress. And this Decarb Award, it means it gets people from out the group coming here involved, look in-depth look at these issues, and we look at which major effect we can achieve overall. And it's great that our staff are involved here, not only looking at decarb, but also at other issues. And it's a great platform for keeping people involved.
And we had a good time while we were at it. Let me just give you one example to show you the magnitude and the bandwidth of what we have been doing at the KHS. We had employees who formed a PV cooperative. So they got together, they collected private money from their midst to put a photovoltaic plant on the roof of the hall to use that electricity for the production in the hall. So people, employees use their own money to chip in to make sure that we use green energy. And it's not only those things. We have the first projects that we have now approved, so we now have capex available for that, so that these investment programs can get on the road. I told you. Let's take a look at Salzgitter one more time. You see the process chain here at the bottom. On March 23, the Supervisory Board approved the overall budget for the first stage of Salzgitter, and that is 2.3 billion euros that we have available for our investment. So we will replace the furnace, and then we have additional electrolysis at Salzgitter. So we are the first integrated steel plant in Europe that has this in its own, the Salzgitter route in its own production mechanism. So when we're talking, you know, the regular production methods, well, this will work in the same fashion, except that it is greener. This is the technical part and the commercial part, but it also means that we're, of course, dealing with our clients. So now, for Salzgitter Steel, we are able to push through premium prices. The clients, the customer understands that, and they want quantities of that, because we are selling steel now that people will actually receive in 2026. That's new. They're hedging these purchases, and that is something very innovative, and it's a strong signal of our sales team that Salzgitter Steel, green steel, is being established in the market. About 2 million tons will be used in this new procedure starting next year, and then we have stage 2 and 3. So in 2030 we will have it completely decarbonized. And of course we need the regulatory environment to make sure that it works. We are in a situation which, of course, politically and also in a societal way, people want that. So we get the framework to make sure that this works. And at the European level, last Christmas we were successful. We had the carbon border adjustment mechanism now, which was introduced, and that is something that we want. So products that come into Europe will be measured by their carbon footprint, and those that have a high carbon footprint will need to pay supplements at the European exterior border, so that we, with our green steel, have a specific advantage. So we now have a bit of a level playing field. So politicians have shown that the necessity of this accelerated decarbonization is confirmed, and our aim that we're in 2033 we're through with that has been confirmed, and we will deliver for sure. I already mentioned partnering for our strategy. In the way we move forward, we have signed numerous partnering agreements with well-known customers. You see technology partners at the bottom of the page. Let me give you one example what we do with these partnerships. Let's talk about Ørsted. Ørsted is a Danish company, globally leader in offshore wind energy. Why do we get into partnership with them? Ørsted, they are supplying green electricity that we need. So with Ørsted, we are in a discussion that how we can get this green energy for us. And they need green steel. They want to decarbonize too, and they have their aims as well. They can only do that by reducing their Scope 3 emissions, and that is only possible having green steel, because if you have planned for one individual wind energy pylon, you need 3 million tons of steel, and that steel has to be green. So, and then after 25 years, when they are being decommissioned, it's a great chance to get that scrap that we can then put back into the circle. So we are well on the road with our partners, and we go for all aspects. Wind turbines in the steel production process is only one of them, and we are successful at that. So let me talk about profitability, one of the main things that you, of course, are interested in as shareholders. When we look at 2022, the world was VUCA. We had a very volatile environment in all kinds of dimensions. It is fair to say that against this background, we actually came out with a pretty good result. Can we be proud of it? Yes. Can we then lay back and relax? No way, because we must continue, we must be profitable, and we are doing that. We have a clear focus on capital commitment, especially when we're talking about a phase of high investments. And also we have an uncertain world. And we need to have our focus on working capital, and we need to have rigid cash management. That is more important than ever. And Thea Becker has set up close monitoring here. And since the summer, we are in a position that we can counteract if there's any problem. And since then, we have an improving net financial position, and we're continuously working on this. As part of our strategy, we also announced the Performance 2026 program. This is called Performance 2026. You may remember I mentioned it last year. What we want is that we wish to achieve an improvement in earnings for the group of 150 to 200 million euros in performance improvement will be made possible. And I'll show you later that we are well on our way here. We haven't quite reached the 200 million yet, but we're close to it. And I can also promise that once we have reached the 200 million limit, then we will then implement new ideas and even go beyond 200 million euros in earnings improvements. Maybe this is a good moment to speak about the first quarter and how we started this year. Again, the first quarter was, of course, characterized by a variety of political and economic uncertainties, especially the steel production business, steel processing and technology gave us very pleasing results. Despite high investments, especially in Salzgitter, both the net financial position and the equity ratio has improved. The external sales of the Salzgitter Group, in terms of quantity and price, fell as a result of the decline in shipment volumes and lower average prices for many rolled steel products in the same period. Nevertheless, a presentable result was achieved with an EBITDA of 200 million euros and a profit before tax of 183.7 million euros. I can tell you the environment is tough and it's going to remain difficult for the year to come, but we are at it. We are working hard to make sure we achieve what we have planned to get. And what did we plan to achieve? Well, we have a management guidance which of course is not on the level of the past year. That would be fatal if that special year that we had last year we would use as the basis for the changing environment. But against the background of the good start of the year on the one hand and the significant increase in investments on the other hand, the guidance of 300 to 400 million euros pre-tax profit, in my view, is an ambitious but also a balanced goal. And this is where the pleasing developments in the heavy plate area come into play. Of course, also thanks to the new heat treatment line presented last year and the very good order intake at our energy daughters, for example, KHS. The fact that the ROCE will be well below the previous year's level is due solely to the Salzgitter investments, which will lead to a significantly increased capital base and thus to a larger denominator. That's mathematics. All in all, this guidance reflects our claim to continue to have a very good command of our markets and, as usual, to tackle our internal homework as part of the earnings improvement program. As usual, we will work hard and in a very consequential manner. Let me now look at growth and customer-oriented solutions. Now we come to the dimension of growth and customer-oriented solutions portfolio management. Like I said, we will look at it and we will strengthen it where it makes sense strategically. In terms of scrap, we have improved it already. We bought the Harzer Schrott and Recycling GmbH. It's a small company in the area of Salzgitter, and we are still looking for more companies, but we also have had some divestments. Our 50% Europipe investment has no strategic positioning for us anymore, so we decided to sell it, and these two plants have been bought, have been sold, and therefore we have now consolidated our portfolio, and we sold that to a Dutch investor, strategic investor, and this is a win-win-win situation, really. The strategic investor had the idea to build up a market position that is strong. So the Bauelemente would have had direct competition, but by buying Bauelemente, he doesn't have to build that up, and Bauelemente will not get this competition. The investor gets a growth platform that is already working, so this is something that works for them. And Bauelemente itself gets an owner now whose core business is what the Dutch investor wants to do. So this is better than what we could possibly provide. So we can then focus on what is actually at the core of our strategy. So at the portfolio side, we have already advanced quite a bit, and we will take further steps to have a clearer profile. I already mentioned the new hot dip galvanizing plant. Our customers like it. They see that there is a shift in customer reaction. They buy customer-oriented products. And I'd like to give you another example with the KHS. We now have the packaging solution Fresh Safe PET. It's a PET bottle. We really have a unique selling proposition here in the market for beverage packaging, and customers buy it. We are having a fairly nice margin in this particular business, and it shows that this is an excellent product, which maybe not in Europe, but if you look at India, when you look at Asia, also to America, this is something that goes very well. And what I'm really happy about, because it's right into the middle of our strategy, that with our Ilsenburg Groebler plant, that's the only one that Siemens Gamesa, the leading company for offshore wind turbines, has been certified to actually manufacture green steel into these offshore turbines. So what I just mentioned to you, they want up to 3,500 tons of steel per wind turbine. And one first project has already been started. It's in Denmark, developed by RWE, and we're in the middle of the negotiations for that. And if you look at how the offshore wind turbine market is growing, I mean, look at the necessity, look at the political framework. This is a business field that will actually grow even more. And our competitors are not even at a stage where they could possibly deliver that. So we again have a USP right here. Let me take a look at the capital market. Also for you as a shareholder, this is important. How are we doing on the capital market? And what is your participation in our success? Okay, we are now proposing a payout which I think is quite attractive for the business year of 2022. More of that in a minute, but let me just explain something about the capital market first. This is something that takes on importance, and that is EFG, environmental social government. So this is very important, ESG management and corporate government. We see that analysts, shareholders, banks come to us and they want information how we are positioning ourselves in these three segments. And of course it's capital market driven, but we also see it from the clients. That means that now we are participating in sustainability rankings. We did this last year. So we had the corporate sustainability assessment, and S&P did this for us. And at the first one, we achieved an assessment of the top 20% of the industry, and we want, of course, even more. We were also in the Carbon Disclosure Project, CDP, and there we actually had a rating of A- and moved up to their so-called leadership category in 2022. Again, it shows we are moving up and we want to improve even more. And then the next one is the EcoVadis certification. That is not so much capital market driven, but more driven by the customers. The customers want that, they expect that, and we expect the result of the rating process in the third quarter. I will tell you about that in the next year. When we're talking about the capital market, we of course also speak about the stock price. I think it's remarkable how our strategy has been picked up by the market. The acceleration of Salzgitter Group, level 1, and last but not least, the economic success seems to be rated positively by the capital market. Our share outperformed both the steel index and the DAX and the SDAX in the first half of 2022 at the turn of the year 22-23. This is due to the great work of our employees. Talking about shares, let me point out that there is a jubilee this year. It's the 25th anniversary of our IPO back in 1998. And if you look back, and this is only it's only a short period that I've actually been participating in this, but I can tell you that the independent Salzgitter AG has stood the test of time and more than met the expectations of the time. We have a quadrupled sales in 2022. The equity increased sevenfold, and the market capitalization improved by more than 150%. And that, and this is important, without a single capital increase. And our task, our goal is to continue the success story under massively changed framework conditions so that hopefully in 25 years we can look back to 50 years of success. And I think we're on the right track with this implementation. Let me take a look at the dividend again, as I promised. This is your participation in our joint success. Our dividend proposal is to pay out a dividend of €1 per share. That is the highest dividend since 2008 and actually represents a 25% increase over the payout for the fiscal year 2021. Based on the closing price in 2022, this results in a dividend yield of 3.5%. This is above our aim. If you look at our scorecard, we said we wanted 3, and now we have actually managed 3.5, and we offer that. We can be proud of what we have jointly achieved, and I think this is an appropriate participation for you in our joint success story. To finish off, I'd like to talk about our employees again. Occupational safety is a very, very important aspect to all of us, and also to me personally. I always look at that very closely. I already mentioned the occupational safety days. Every worker should go back in the evening the way they have shown up in the morning. And therefore, I'm very happy that back in 22, we were able to improve, and we had very, very few occupational incidents, and that is good. And we still have to keep working to make sure that there are no accidents. Unfortunately, we did have a fatal injury last year of another company in Ilsenburg, a subcontractor. So in addition to the tragedy for the family of that person, it is also relevant to all of us, because we have to make sure, this is a further incentive for us to make sure that everybody gets home safe in the evening. And future companies, future employees, people who want to join us, they ask us, what are you doing for your workers? What are you doing for occupational safety? So we need to be attractive as an employer. Why? Well, we're looking at a baby boomer generation which is about to retire within the next 3 to 5 years. So we have a demographic change coming towards us. So we identify this and we see how can we become more attractive. Safety is one element, but there are other measures too, a whole bundle of measures. Flexible working hours, wherever it is possible, we try to be as flexible as possible. That's one of the aims, home office of course, but I think there is more to it than that. Even all the way to offering special health programs so that people will be healthy and fit. And the second aspect is, and this is part of our scorecard, that we have more women in top position, tariff-based and outside of the tariffs. And this is the pool of people from where we need to recruit our people, so outside of collective agreement and inside the 80s. And that is not easy. The so-called men's profession are not so attractive for women, and that's not only with us, it's for the entire industry. But we want to get to a point that we have more women in the company, and I will show you what I mean by that.
Hi, I've been with Salzgitter for 1 year, and it's important for me to do things also privately for the environment. I think Salzgitter is a great program which in a very short time has made a great contribution. We're working in a great team, we're very diverse. We work in many different areas, and it's great to be in this development, involved in this development. The Salzgitter AG has been in a cultural transformation for about 12 months now, and the younger generations are taking part in this transformation. Hi, my name's Veronica, and I will be in the flat steel in the order management as of last year. It will be great for me to have this chance to get people involved in a subject which I think is very important, and that is here at the Salzgitter AG. I think there will be opportunities which to help us achieve things, to work in a team with younger people, with older people, to create a great deal and work together to put this transformation into place, to support it and move it forward. And I will be making my contribution to this. It's great for me to have that opportunity, and that's what I'm looking forward to in 2023. My name's Sandra. I'm responsible for Eastern Asia, and I've been working for the AG for a number of years now because we work so well together. We are involved in discussions, everyone at the same level, and it's also a great working life. An important aspect is that Salzgitter AG is on its way towards transformation, and therefore it is also taking into account the lives of future generations.
I'd like to tell you more about that, but definitely we still have quite a ways to go. But when I look at these young colleagues, and I'm not really worried because I see that we have great people there. But if I look forward now, there are quite a few challenges ahead of us. And these challenges will not go away by themselves, not only for us, it's also for the entire industry, for the society at large. But we need to deal with them. Just to use a few keywords here, the war on Ukraine. Last time when we met, the Ukraine war had just been like 8 or 10 weeks old. Nobody thought it was going to last that long. Nobody thought it was going to last for more than a year. At least I didn't. So we have to deal with that. And we just had this discussion last night. We have to think of how we can help Ukraine in building up the company again after the war. So supply chain issues. We had major problems last year. Our colleagues at DKHS in their machine building environment had difficulties. It's better now, but they're still there. So we're working on the fact that we need to make sure that these uncertainties in the supply chain will be eradicated. And there is an increased noticeable geopolitical tension and thus uncertainties, especially among our customers. Of course, we deal with that. We try to understand which customer relations will develop how in the political field and how we can find a solution. And of course, energy prices. Last year, we saw energy prices for gas and electricity, which for a company like ours wouldn't work. So therefore, we're very happy that the Ministry of the Economy helps us for a bridge price, not in the long run, but a bridge price which helps us in the industry. And we are actively participating in that discussion to make sure that energy costs in Europe are done in such a way that in a global competition we can be successful. I'm very positive that we will soon come to a solution that makes sense to everybody and also to us. Let me just talk about some of the challenges that we have. Well, you see, when we feel that in our company and also in our private lives, it's something that we then will actively try to deal with. Because this is about resilience. It is important that we as a company are resilient. I try to show that and hope I was able to bring that across. There are 4 categories. Technically, CO2 reduction, cell costs, other further development for the customer. Commercially, so that we have market premiums and also subsidies for green steel so that we have more customers in that field. Financially, with a solid policy and a clear focus on cash management in this phase of production, and also on the HR side, that our people are feeling assured that they can work here in a safe environment. So the resilience is 4 blocks. We built up and we will continue working on that. And we then translate what I just mentioned to you in one simple phrase. We need, in short, a new mindset for a new industry. We need to change our mindset in order to face the challenges of the future. And that Salzgitter AG will be successful at this for the future to drive it forward, because it's happening right here. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Groebler. I'd like to thank you. Also, I'd like to thank those who have been listening via live stream. Thank you for your interest in the company. The live stream is now going to be switched off.